was really hoping that we would continue the conga line for the rest of the day. Sensei! Spirit! I needed that. As they said, my name is Liz Mercado. I am the star director of the Tinker Stars team. I currently live in Sarasota, Florida, and I'm super excited to come and talk to you guys today because I have a love for World Tour. World Tour is what started to change in my business. I've been with Sensi for a little over 10 years, and I came across Sensi 2 times before I even looked at what Sensi was. Like, I didn't even look at the catalog. I thought anything that came in from a catalog was too expensive, so living paycheck to paycheck, I didn't even look at it. My friends looked at it, my friends ordered, I was like, nope, can't afford that. So at the time, I was a newlywed expecting my first child, and when spring of 2012 came along, I had my baby boy, and unexpectedly 6 days later, he passed away. Yeah. And so, as you guys can imagine, I was falling into like a deep grief. And while I was reading things to try and help me cope, I just tried to avoid being alone. Because when I was alone, it was when I was in the dark. Like, I would cry and I would just curl up in my bed. And I didn't want to be that kind of person. I kind of wanted to be in control of my own feelings. So July came around and my friend from childhood posted on Facebook, good old Facebook, that she had just joined Sensi and she was looking for anyone that was interested in doing a party and getting free stuff. She had me at free and party because I didn't want to be alone. So I'm like, this is a win-win. So I booked a party and I had 2 people show up, my mom and my brother's girlfriend. So I literally was kind of sitting there like, okay, she bought a $25 6-pack. And how am I gonna get my free stuff? So my mom graciously said, let's do another party at my house in a couple of days to help you get to your goal. So I spent those days looking at the catalog because now I had fallen in love with Echo. Any Echo fans in here? Right? Such a wonderful fragrance. So I fell in love with Echo, and so I was looking at the catalog and kind of doing my wish list. And my mom's party came, and I no longer was sitting in the seats. I was helping the consultant with my guest. And so she saw that spark and she offered me the opportunity. But again, I was living paycheck to paycheck and we didn't have the host join kit back then. So it took me a few months and a very good friend that offered to pay for my starter kit for me to get started. And so when I got started, I had no goal with Sensi. I remember the conversation with my husband telling him that I was gonna do it for like 2 years. I was gonna get some free and half off Sensi, maybe make a little extra money and just kind of help myself with my grief. And so I didn't really have any kind of goal or vision with Sensi at the time, but I knew that I had to pay my friend back. So I did take my testers and my catalog everywhere, and I hit shooting star by accident. And receiving that email from Sensi really validated me and really made me feel like I had accomplished something. So it kind of sparked a little light. And so I kind of listened to everyone that was talking about going to Spring Sprint and decided to take a day off my job and go to Spring Sprint. And when I walked in, everyone was screaming. I honestly don't remember if it was Sensi Spirit at the time, but everyone was screaming. And I'm from Puerto Rico as well, so we're loud and proud. And so I started screaming. My friends looking at me like I'm crazy, and I'm like, I don't know, they're just screaming. I'm screaming with them. But I walked out that day wanting more with Sensi. I walked away knowing that I wanted to have what the ladies that were on stage had: financial freedom, time freedom, they were traveling the world, but above all, they had confidence. And it was something that I always kind of lacked on because I didn't feel like I was enough. And so I knew that I wanted more with Sensi, but I didn't know how I was gonna do it. So fast forward a little bit, I moved to Florida from Utah, and about a month after I moved here, my sponsor called me and told me that she was quitting Sensi. And I was kind of like, what does that mean for me? Like, what happens now? So she explained to me that I was gonna roll up to her sponsor and that I would be okay. So I rolled up to her sponsor, and guess what happened 2 months later? Her sponsor quit. So I rolled up again. And I rolled up to someone that I had personally met before, but she wasn't very supportive. And every time that I went to her with a question or asked her to train me, she was kind of like, I don't have the time, I don't have the means. And so, but I didn't give up, and I didn't stop coming to Sensi events. And at a Sensi event right here in Orlando, I got to hear from a wonderful director at the time about her story. And it resonated with my story, so I reached out to her and I said, thanks for sharing your story. Can I follow you on social media? She graciously said yes. And I started following her, and I was like a fly on the wall on her team page. And I remember a particular conversation where I was venting with her about my sponsor. And I was like, well, I can't reach my goal because my sponsor won't teach me. I can't get high PRV because she's not like giving me challenges. And she said, Liz, do you do this business for you or for her? I thought I had that answer in the book too. I thought, I can't get this answer wrong. I do it for myself. And she said, then why does it matter what she does or does not do for you? And so at that moment, a light went off, and I said, okay, if I have to do it for myself, then I need to change something. And that world tour came around again. Told you guys I had a love for world tour. And we were talking about the fixed and growth mindset. And that's when it really hit me that the whole first part of my business, I was looking through it with a fixed lens. I only cared about what was being done for me, not what I could accomplish. So the lack of others was what was keeping me down, right? My sponsor doesn't teach me, so I can't do this. I can't get parties, so I can't have high PRV. I don't get parties because I don't get trained. So it wasn't until that consultant asked me that very important question, and I learned a little bit more about fixed and growth mindset, that I started to shift my business. And you might think, well, okay, what changed? What did you do? I started to dive very deep into what Sensi had to offer. I spent hours on the training center. I showed up to those Tuesday calls. I showed up to any and every team Facebook Live that I got invited to. And as Steffi said, I was not an asshole because I asked the questions, but I put into practice what I was doing. And so if you remember that world tour where we talked about fixed and growth mindset, I remember particularly being in the room and hearing the soundtrack of The Greatest Showman. I had not watched the movie. And so I started surrounding myself with the positive things, the things that were inspiring. I started to listen to podcasts. I started reading self-improvement books so that I could help myself grow as a leader, as a consultant, and as a person. And to this day, I still overcome a lot of my challenges by reminding myself the power that I have in my own mind. It's silly to think when we say, oh, if I just think that it can happen, it will happen. But it's very true. If you change those I can't statements into I can statements, you're manifesting what can possibly happen instead of sitting in what can't happen. And so we spend so much time in negative self-talk, right? I'm not smart enough. I don't have the means. I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy. And it's very easy to fall into like this self-pity. But if we gave ourselves that same time and grace to do positive self-talk, imagine what we could accomplish. And it's not only doing the self-talk, but also putting into action. So I got to go to SFR 2018, I believe it was Anaheim, and I got to meet one of my really good social media friends in person. And we were sitting at the pool and we were talking, and she was talking about how, like her PRV, her parties and all that kind of stuff. And at first, I started looking at it through a fixed mindset. I started saying, she's so lucky. People want to party with her. But then I switched and I said, nope, this is a growing moment. And I started asking her questions, and I started, saying, okay, like, what do you do at your parties? Well, how do you get parties? What do you take to your parties? How do you coach your host? And what seemed like a struggle for me at the time, because I had only hit 2,000 a month once, I came home, I applied those things, and I achieved and crushed the goals I set for myself that fall.
Yeah.
Thank you. So James Clear once said, comparison is the thief of joy when applied broadly, but the teacher of skills when applied narrowly. So when we sit there and we compare our chapter 3 to someone's chapter 30, it's very easy to sit there and make excuses as to why we can't achieve it. But if we compare it in a teaching form and learn from those that have done it before, we can actually accomplish the goals that we set out for ourselves. When we're willing to learn and shift instead of quit, we become resilient ourselves. Quitting is never the answer, and it's definitely not going to get us closer to our goal than we were before. Sometimes we measure success by that finish line, right? I'll be successful when I'm a superstar director. I'll be successful when I can quit my job. I'll be successful when I can pay my mortgage. But success is really in the rising after we fall. It comes in those seasons when we didn't meet those goals and we still stand up again and try again. And so as we face and overcome these challenges and obstacles, the experiences can make us a more understanding, empathetic, and compassionate person. Realizing that I was in control of my business has helped me to also look within myself and reflect. Now I want to ask a question that maybe doesn't get asked much, but anybody in here did not earn this past incentive? Right? That can be very discouraging, especially if you came really close to your goal and you didn't quite make it. But it also gives us the opportunity to reflect. What could I have done differently? What worked? What didn't work? Where can I shift in my business? If we sit there and just stay in our pity and say, well, I'm just not cut out to earning incentives. I'm just not smart enough. I don't do parties like so-and-so. We're never gonna earn those incentives or those awards or reach those goals. But if we self-reflect and see what we could do differently, not necessarily the right way, because there's really no wrong way, right? We just need to maybe shift, think of a new idea, ask ourselves what worked. What did I spend time on that I can cut out that fluff? We can see a different outcome. So imagine what that can help us to do to our, not only ourselves and our business, but also the network of growing our team and community. So I'm actually going to invite you guys to do an exercise, and if you feel comfortable enough to stand up, I invite you to stand up. But if you don't feel comfortable, raising your hand or just answering the question to yourself will also be enough. You came here alone today. Quite a few of you. Congratulations, good job. You have felt discouraged and maybe even wanted to quit your business. You have felt very alone in your journey. You have had at least one good thing come from Sensi. Oh, look at that. Awesome. You have Sensi spirit. Awesome. So each of these scenarios give us the opportunity to ask ourselves a very important question. Am I looking at this from a fixed mindset Or am I looking at it with a growing mindset? Let's take the first question. You came here alone today. Staying in a fixed mindset, you might have not shown up after buying your ticket. Or you might have came in and just sat by yourself, not talk to anyone, not get out of your bubble. And sometimes that takes work. But being in a growth mindset, it really helps you to step out of your comfort zone, and that's where we really grow. So maybe you came here today alone, but you've made a friend. Maybe you introduced yourself to the person that's sitting next to you. Or maybe at lunch you took someone's picture and made a friend. Allowing ourselves to look at things and really think, how can I grow from this? Also helps us to be able to share our challenges and our journeys with others. If it wasn't for those consultants that were willing to share their stories with me, share their insights, share their tips and tricks, I don't know if I would be on this stage today. Now I know that it takes my action, but because they were willing to give more than they took, they are changing lives without even knowing it. So this past fall, I got to go to my first Star Director Summit approach in Meridian, Idaho. On my 10th year anniversary, it was a good time. And that was the first event that I had ever gone to alone, ever. Like my first world tour, all of my SFRs I've gone was either a teammate or my husband or someone that I knew. And so I made my little reservation, and since he booked our hotel with that and all kind of stuff, but I knew no one. And so I called my SSD and I said, I don't know if I want to go. Like, I don't know anyone. What if I feel left out? That's one of my biggest fears. And so she said, Liz, this is really going to help you. It's going to help your business. It's going to help you grow. You need to go. So what I did is I started chatting and responding to people when they would ask questions on our group page and start building those relationships. And then I got the courage and I asked, does anybody want to catch an Uber ride from the airport to the hotel together? I didn't know anyone, don't know who I was gonna meet, but at least we had Sensi in common, right? And so I got quite a few consultants that messaged back, and that was the root, the little seed that started friendships that have blossomed beautifully in just a few months. As we leave here today, we've heard a lot of amazing things that we can take into our business. And grit, consistency, do it scared. I love that because that was what got me here on the stage. And it's very, very true. So I invite you to think about the biggest challenge that you're facing in your business. What is holding you back? And try looking and asking yourself, am I looking at this from a fixed mindset? Or am I looking at this from a growth mindset? And allow yourself to be honest with yourself. It's okay to be in a fixed mindset. That's like the normal thing to do. But when we realize that we're in a fixed mindset, then we can take action and start looking for ways to shift to a growth mindset. So it was very important for my superstar director to share this with you guys. A few years ago, I was revamping my vision board, and I do love to talk. I'm a talker. Like I said, I'm Puerto Rican, so we talk, we ramble. And so I love doing like trainings for my team. I love talking. And so when I signed up to be a volunteer for today, I thought it was gonna be in a breakout session, not in front of all of you guys all at the same time. So I was really excited. And then when I got the email that I was from the main stage, I almost told home office that I was gonna take my invite back. And so my SSD said, nope, you have on your vision board to speak at a Sensi event. You manifested that, and you need to go ahead and check that off. And so thank you. As scary as it is, is sometimes to face our fears, we have to be willing to do it scared, because that is the only way that we're gonna grow. Sometimes even setting those goals become really scary. I have a teammate that does not like setting goals. It's scary, because when we don't meet those goals, we feel like we failed. But today, I want you to throw that word out, and I want you to think, I didn't fail, I learned something, I can get back up and finish this race. So, thank you guys for helping me with this goal and this manifestation. Thank you.
Woo! Go Liz!
So before I hand off the mic, I do want to take a selfie so that I can say that I did this, you know? And I'll leave you guys with this quote. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. And I hope I pronounced this guy's name right. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe.